This is the President of the People's National Party and Leader of the Opposition, Mark Golding. I note Prime Minister Andrew Holness's remarks in a TV interview this morning. Neither he nor his party has made those proposals as part of the process of constitutional reform. His proposals are therefore not in the report of the Constitutional Reform Committee and will not be in the new constitution coming out of that process. Furthermore, Mr. Holness's proposals this morning are not in the existing constitution and would violate the existing constitution. This is in keeping with his and his government's unfortunate history of past violations of the Constitution of Jamaica. It seems that the Prime Minister wants to make up a rule which is not part of the Constitution or laws of Jamaica to suit his party's political fortune at a time when it is waning. He has no power and no authority to do that. Mr. Holness needs to tell Jamaica why his statutory declarations to the Integrity Commission cannot be certified. I am compliant with the Constitution and laws of Jamaica, and I undertake to the people of Jamaica that I will continue to be so.
Visa subscribers, you never smoke without fire. Prime Minister Andrew Holness allegedly trying to change the constitutional law, my people. Visa subscribers, the big question is, who are 6 my people? Visa subscribers, 3 years now, Prime Minister Andrew Holness cannot declare his assets and liabilities, my people. Visa subscribers, a bit things are going on. Why Prime Minister Andrew Holness want to change our constitutional law, my people? Do you find it suspicious? Do you find it fishy, my people?
There was no one draft report which was presented and signed off on. It was a constantly evolving document, and even at the last minute, changes were being made. The way in which it progressed was that we would come to a meeting. We would be given the draft report. We would go to a particular point in the draft report. We would return the reports, and then we would get the reports again when we came to the meeting. So it was very challenging for somebody like me who likes to read and mark up a document and so on, and to see the full text. It was difficult for me to follow some of what was taking place. In fact, I am not able to attend all the meetings. We have had like 38 meetings. I am a practicing attorney. I go to court, and I also have responsibilities as a senator and with joint select committees. We meet Wednesdays and Fridays, and we meet all day. So on one occasion when I had missed a meeting and I looked at the document, I had very deep concerns about what I saw there. And I articulated a position of concern which was met with agreement by the committee. So there was not one draft report on which everybody signed off. When I came to that last meeting, as a matter of fact, it was pointed out to me that Mr. Hilton, Anthony Hilton, who sits on the committee, had reserved on some points. And one of the things on which he had reserved was a matter of impeachment, which is something that you would have seen raised by the opposition leader. I made it clear from April 10th, when I saw that that date had been set for the signing of the report, that I was not prepared to sign any report without discussion with the leader and his team, because that's what we do. We consult. We sit in a representative capacity at that table. We don't sit as Donna and Anthony. We are appointed by the opposition to represent the opposition's view. And I made it clear to the minister. I got the transcript today because I wondered if I was not remembering accurately, where I said, we have to discuss this before we come and do any signing. So in fact, the minister, is always working. And I remember there was a point when I called her in Washington and I said, I have to put to the executive the composition of the Senate, because I cannot give them a reasonable explanation as to why we have moved from the report, the recommendation in the Joint Select Committee of 1995 of 36 senators to now 29. By that time, there had been a recognition that 29 couldn't work. And so the recommendation had gone to 27 because you needed to, to have a 2/3 majority. So it wasn't a document which was prepared, ready, you went through, and that was it, and you agreed with everything. There are still matters which, when we went through with the party leader on the Thursday morning, which is when he was having sight of what I think, and I can only say what I think, was a final draft report that struck me for the first time, such as, for example, the question of the approach which was being taken to the issue of fixed election dates.
There were some members of the committee that signed the document already, even with those flaws in it. I told the meeting and the minister that I couldn't sign the document unless I saw the rest of it. The document was not given to the members of the committee to be able to take home. It had a stamp on it as restricted copy. After you read it, they were taken back. That is not the transparency and the trust that we expect in a country that is looking seriously at reforming its constitution. This is not a way to proceed with the business of the constitution. We have not had sufficient communication with the public about what we are doing and what is considering. Up to now, I do not know because I have not seen whether or not they have verbatim minutes, verbatim report of all of our meetings. I have not yet considered what I will be doing. I have not refused to sign. I have a lot of concerns about the whole way the report has been compiled and some of the things that are in it. And I have great concerns about how the whole question of constitutional reform was dealt with from this time that the Constitutional Reform Committee was formed and convened.
We're continuing to talk about constitutional reform and this issue of public engagement, the public being consulted during the process. The work of the Constitutional Reform Committee has been a constant ever since the committee was formed. And Minister, you've been consistently resisting the criticisms and the suggestions that people weren't involved enough and that was never properly remedied. I mean, you've pointed, as Dr. McCarthy has, to the town hall meetings, the invitations for submissions, the website and so on, but groups like Michael Jackson and others say it's not enough. Do you, at this stage, report done, look back and say, maybe we didn't get it right?
I think that there is a lot more that needs to be done, Dion. And I have never been resistant. I have merely been pointing out the efforts made. So I understand that the 5 town halls that we have had, not enough. The over 30 meetings we have had, still not enough. The over 80 other engagements, not enough. The number of reports come, not enough. But you know, it's interesting that the deficits in the public education has allowed Michael's organization to successfully apply for aid and grant for a need that is real. And I was happy to be present for the launch of her project, right? So for every need met.
Town halls, JFJ going to be doing.
No, that's what I'm saying. So we mustn't look at it in isolation. I know the over 80 engagement plus the over 30 meetings plus the 5 town halls have not been enough. And with all of the things done is still not enough. You know, I anticipated it and I pull the document which alongside the committee's work is what has been happening in the ministry on the matter and just looking on some of the work done. And with the effort made, there is still a lot to be done because there is a huge gap. So I am not one to disregard a problem or to turn a blind eye to it. But we also have to acknowledge the progress being made. There is never going to be enough with the gap that exists, the knowledge gap in the society. I'm not being simplistic, Dion.
No,
I know there are differences.
It's just that I think I need to reformulate the criticism, which is it's not, I think, only in terms of number of engagements.
Right.
People feel that the process has been a closed one. And there has been comparison, as I was saying to you, I think, yesterday, to the making of the 1962 Constitution, where the people were almost entirely left out of the
So I had benefit of some research, including talking to people who were around at that stage. And it's interesting, the doctoral thesis argument about the closeness of it. Remember, Jamaica was on a path of federation at the time, and when the federation failed, they had to switch over to doing the independence. What had happened, I am reliably advised, and from all what I have looked at is that the people who could have been engaged meaningfully in the process, they were engaged. You have to look at context. That's what the report shows. Hold on before you take me on. Hold on before you take me on, because I wasn't around in 1962. I can only go on what I have read and what I have heard from credible sources who were around and participating in the process. So I know there are disagreements on it. I know that if you were leading it, for example, you'd have done it entirely differently. I understand that. But you know what our consultations reveal? That a lot of the issues raised had to do with the need for accountability in government. Some people thought that what they want amended in the Constitution.
We're talking about this current process.
Yes, this current process.
No,
this
just making sure we're not.
No, this current process. I wasn't around in 62. I can only say I'm reliably informed, and I do verily believe this process. So I accept that there is a knowledge gap. But the other thing is that when you look on the framework of the Constitution, at the end of the day, what the people are going to decide on is what is in the bill. All right? And the provisions that require their approval are not provisions that I am picking or Donna is picking. Those are provisions that are set. Right? And that is part of the reason, too, why the work is in phases, because there are other matters in the Constitution that are not as deeply protected, that impact the people in a more real way than the deeply entrenched provisions. And listen, when that phase comes around, it's going to be exciting. The lesson we're learning from this is that a different kind of engagement will have to take place. Because there are some people who say, when you talk to them about the issues, they're a little far removed. The king not do us anything. When you talk about Jamaicanizing the Constitution and what it means to have the Constitution contained in a schedule to an imperial instrument, the Order in Council, they say, what is that? They don't understand it, but you and I and others who are attorneys who have specialized knowledge in the lawmaking process and the hierarchy of laws would immediately understand how anomalous that position is and how important it is to correct it.
What is your position and your view on dual citizenship and holding such and being in the member of parliament?
Let me say this as a kind of precursor to answering you. I've tried not to say too much on the constitutional reform issues because there is a strategy to literally take all my statements and turn them into political fodder. And I didn't want anything that I said to be used as an excuse not to proceed, because we got the sense that people were looking for excuses not to proceed with the constitutional reform. So I deliberately totally stayed away from it. So even though I am going to be very careful and guarded, limited in any statement that I make on this matter of the dual citizenship, except what I've already said, which I was very clear in statements made when I was leader of government business in the parliament over a decade ago, that I believe that the Jamaican diaspora is much bigger than our Commonwealth, and that the Jamaican Commonwealth is our diaspora wherever they are, and that we should allow persons with Jamaican citizenship to be able to serve Jamaicans in our parliament politically. So for me, it doesn't matter what other citizenship you have. Once you swear allegiance, being a Jamaican citizen, to Jamaica, that would be my stated position. The other thing I would say is that to be the ultimate leader of a country, to be the ultimate executive leader of the country, you should have no other citizenship. There should be no question by your citizens that you lead, that you have somehow split loyalties, that you have a parachute should in case anything go wrong, that you may not be subject to the full force of the laws of the country that you serve because you are a citizen of another country. you could always find a way out. So, and I think that is important. I think in the minds of every Jamaican, the question would be, is the leader of your country fully, wholly and solely committed to your best interest? And there is no other loyalty or interest drawing on the decisions that they make. So I think if you allow that, in other words, if you allow the leader of the country, in whatever position that leader is, to have another loyalty, then every decision that that leader makes will be open for question. So it is an untenable situation. And if you intend to become leader of the country, in whether as prime minister or any top leadership, leader of the opposition, or to head the parliament or whatever it is, you really should divest yourself of any other loyalty that you may have. So am I taking that to mean then that, for instance, your party, I've seen members of your party over the past weekend calling for opposition leader Mark Golding to declare whether or not he is a UK citizen. You are saying then that if he is, then his position is untenable. So for two things. We believe that we must find a way to include our diaspora, our Jamaicans. So once you are a Jamaican, you have Jamaican citizenship, we believe you should be entitled to enter our parliament and serve. Right. However, having entered the parliament, if it is that you intend to become the ultimate decision maker, then you must divest yourself of any other loyalty, even if it is not required legally. Because in the minds of the Jamaican people, or any country, they are going to want to know that their ultimate decision maker is only making decisions based upon a single, transparent loyalty and allegiance
and
to them.
And that you're in it with us. You can't escape. You are in what we are in.
And so more pointedly to my question then, that in relation to your opposition counterpart, that you're saying that his position would be untenable. I think anyone in that position would be untenable, and not just that, I think it would be incurable. In other words, having gone ahead to say, I want to lead the country ultimately, and not having taken that step before, you can't cure it afterwards, because already the question is, then why didn't you do this before? Why did you carry us along and not declare this?
All right. Constitutional reform in Jamaica. I should have discussed this good while now, but I was letting everything build up. Alex Mile Priest, peace and love. So, since last year, I think 2023, the current government of Jamaica administration has been discussing constitutional reform in Jamaica. They plan to, or claim that they're having it in a two-phase way, where you're going to have phase one and phase two. Really and truly, that's all I can say about it in terms of phase one and phase two, because we don't actually know what phase one entails fully, and we worse don't know what is involved in phase two. But what they're saying is, in phase one, you're supposed to have an elimination or an abolition of the monarchy in Jamaica. Many of you should know by now that Jamaica is not an independent country. They claim it is, but it's not. Hence why they want to do this. Hence why they want to turn Jamaica now into a republic, which is supposed to, I mean, I haven't heard them use that word yet, but Jamaica is supposed to become sovereign and control its own affairs, because at this time, Jamaica does not actually control its own affairs. The highest court is not in Jamaica. It's not even in the Caribbean. It's still in England. All of these little things, right? But I am going to discuss my personal problems with this silly process. The first thing is Jamaicans are unclear as to what exactly this process is, what it entails, what is being done, and why it's being done. It has been expressed by many Jamaicans already that they are not satisfied with what they're saying that phase one is supposed to be. Phase one is supposed to be the removal of the monarch and the creation of a republic, putting in a president, as we see up here. Do you have a view on proposed office of president? Powers to be exercised, selection process, qualification, term of office and tenure. But in my view, personally, this change to republic and removal of the monarch only benefits the ruling elite. Why do I say this? Because at the ending of the day, changing or decolonizing the country of Jamaica should benefit the people first. But how many people will ever become president? They plan to maintain the bipartisan system, which means that if you want to be a president, if you want to be anything at all in this system, you have to join either them JLP or them PNP party, which may not join none. So how does this benefit me? There is no discussion about land reform. There is no discussion about the change of status of the people from slave to having been free from the beginning of time. There's no discussion about that. There's no discussion about the rectification of history. There's no discussion about how indigenous people, indigenous descendants will be involved. Nothing. They just want to get rid of the king so that they can have absolute power. Let's go a bit deeper into some of the issues. So, president of People's National Party and leader of how it go again now? His Majesty's loyal opposition, right, has come out and said that they want full decolonization in constitutional reform process. Now, what is he calling decolonization? Well, his issue is they want for the removal of the Privy Council, which we see your favorite dancehall artist recently got a decision, somewhat favorable decision from the Privy Council. So he wants the Privy Council removed as the final appellate court of Jamaica and putting in the Caribbean Court of Justice. Yeah. That's not decolonization, my friend. That's not decolonization, because colonization was not the act of setting up a court. It was actually the act of destruction of unaliving indigenous people, stealing their land, and imposing a system which you are a part of. The same bipartisan, same what they call it, bicameral, same parliamentary Westminster system, which I don't really hear you having a problem with. You're just saying that you want the court to be the Caribbean Court of Justice. That's not decolonization. But what's even more hilarious is this. So after Mark Golding comes out and says, oh, we need decolonization. And we're not signing off on these documents for the CRC until we see this, which is not a bad thing, but I don't agree with it being decolonization. The minister in charge of the Constitutional Reform Committee, Marlene Malahoo Ford, says that the opposition stance is regrettable. But Marlene Malahoo Ford has a history of kind of disregarding the rights of the people, Let's look into that. So when Julian Robinson of the People's National Party brought a case to the Constitutional Court in Jamaica concerning the NIDS and the NERA and all of that and its invasiveness, if you look up above, when Marlene Malahoo Ford was Attorney General, you know what she said? she called it naked politics dressed up in the form of a right. So guy shouldn't have had the right to you know, to say anything. The Supreme Court High Judge Brian Sykes says no definition of naked politics was offered by either the learned Attorney General or the judge that used it at the time. And he went as far as to say the new charter of the Constitution says that really and truly anybody that has a problem with something that's going on in the, you know, and may contravene their rights concerning the Constitution can bring it and say something. But I guess Marlene Malahoo Fort doesn't agree with being able to talk. I don't know. But from the minutes of the Constitutional Reform Committee meetings, even they have admitted that the public has made it clear that, number one, just removing the king is insufficient. We need to discuss major issues that were created by colonization, right? You know, so this phase one plan thing, it not really make it. Nobody don't even understand what they're planning to do. And they actually said that, you know, if the public might completely decide to disregard the process if it's limited to just the abolition of the monarchy and the creation of a republic, because that only benefits the people in government. All that does is give them more power. We don't see what that would actually do for the people. Now, this is an excerpt actually from the minutes of one of the meetings. And even they realize it, having these meetings. It was observed that what was unfolding in the public domain was indicative of the public's concern about the process of constitutional reform amidst a certain level of cynicism, ignorance, and a general lack of trust in the process. If the people are ignorant and don't know what the hell is going on, that's your fault, right? And if they don't know what's going on, they can't trust the process. And so clearly this is not working out. Commentators on the process have made it clear that this thing has begun. We're supposed to be in phase one, and we still don't know what these people are doing. Lack of clarity about the matters covered in phase one. So, you know, my thing is, my message today concerning this thing, and I'm going to have to go deeper because this thing is so deep, really and truly. We need proper inclusion of the people. We need to address major issues such as land ownership and the status of the people. And at the end of this process, the people need to feel fulfilled, or else this makes no sense. You're only pleasing yourselves.